You are now tuned into the sounds of what black men like. Got Malik in the building.
Brooklyn.
Got Willie P in the building. Don't be scared now.
Came up from Alabama.
The #1 apex in the world. I know there's something absolutely unique about these guys.
Legendary.
Y'all know what this is. This is Mr. No Cap, world famous.
Look, nobody from Baltimore can offend me.
You're now tuned into the sounds of what black men like. Welcome back to What Black Men Like, the Black Man's Lifestyle Podcast. This is yours truly, Mr. No Cap. Of course, we got Willie P and Brittney Burna in the building. We actually got representatives from all over the globe today. So I want to get right into it, get into these guest introductions so we can dive right into this topic. Brother Dre, can you come in here and introduce yourself real quick?
Yeah, so my name is Dre, Andre Johnson. I'm a filmmaker. I help minorities find jobs in the technology industry, and I help people leverage their platforms to find the clients that they need to have to start their businesses. But outside of that, I'm a content creator, and I'm a father and a black man first. So there we go.
Shout out to Black Fathers.
We got a representative from the continent, Brother Sensical Sense is in the building. Brother Sense, can you come in here and introduce yourself real quick?
I go by the name Sensical Sense. I'm a pan-African rap artist from the mother continent itself, from Kenya. And I am just a stone cold pan-African YouTube podcaster. I have my show called Does It Make Sense? It's on YouTube. In the show, I just go deeper on black issues and African issues, and I'm constantly encouraging everybody that we will never be free until Africans in the continent and Africans in the diaspora join and form a connection. Primarily, I'm a rap artist, but my main mission is Pan-Africanism. So I'm glad to be here.
It's a pleasure to have you. Definitely agree with that sentiment. On today's show, we're going to be talking about privilege, specifically this concept that I recently became familiar with called male privilege. So the first thing I want to do is get an idea from the panel of what does it mean when you hear the phrase male privilege. Brother Dre, male privilege, what does that sound like? What is it, when you hear that term, what does that mean?
I got to get more details because I'm like, male privilege, it's almost like what could they even be referring to? A broad one, So I'm trying to figure out what they mean by male privilege,
Willie P, male privilege, what does that sound like to you?
It sounds like a bunch of made up shit. That's really what it sounds like. What is it? Privilege. Privilege is having extra experience amongst people that you're comfortable with. Is that a thing? Is it bad? Right? I don't think it's bad at all.
Sensical Sense. When you hear that term male privilege, what does that mean to you?
I've never heard that type of thing before. But you know what? It sounds like something that comes out of a strategy from white supremacy to kind of drive disunity between the black man and the black woman. Mm-hmm. So when you look at African culture, black culture, whatever you want to call it, we have historically been respecting and upholding women. If you look at the traditional ways, most tribes had queen mothers who were even more powerful than the kings and the queens. We had the big mama. In Southern Africa, we call them sangomas. Sangomas are traditional healers, and most of them were women, and they were really respected because they were healing the community. I'm not here to say that the black community doesn't have misogyny, because we do have misogyny in the black community. But if you look at misogyny in the black community, it has skyrocketed right after slavery and right after colonization here in Africa. Let me speak about Africa. For example, Kenya was colonized by the British. So we saw how the white man treated the white woman. And sadly, we kind of emulated that. And because of the stress and because of the horrific experiences that we were facing from the British colonial systems, as a man, you feel so frustrated, and most of the frustrations used to go to the black woman. But I truly believe that colonization played a huge role in the misogyny that is in our community right now, and also slavery when it comes to the African diaspora. I believe that it has a huge role concerning misogyny in the community.
Britt, can you come in and give us your definition
So privilege allotted to males and males alone is the simplest way to say it, but where I've experienced it, because I do believe that it does exist. I do believe our American society is patriarchal. I don't even know why this thought just crossed my head, but all the way back into the, acting times where, all the actors were male. They even put on wigs so they could be women because women weren't allowed to be in the plays. Things like that is what comes to my mind when you say male privilege, all the way down to even being in my industry and just knowing from a business aspect, men are usually taken more seriously than women. So for me, I'm usually thinking of business when I think about male privilege. And I guess in certain job fields as well, because it's only just in the past recent years that women are now allowed to take on these roles or even be respected in those roles instead of laughed at, such as, things that are union based like HVAC, plumbing, electric, things like that. So that's where my mind goes when you say male privilege. And I do believe, again, that it definitely exists.
Building off of that, I'm going to actually read the definition that's out there for male privilege. Male privilege is the system of advantages or rights that are available to men on the basis of their sex. A man's access to these benefits may vary depending on how closely they match their society's ideal masculine norm.
Right.
This term emanates from the feminist academic studies out of the 1970s. As soon as I said feminist, Willie was like, oh, hell no, that's some bullshit.
I'm crying.
I'll say this real quick. I think if male privilege really does exist, I think that's something that's granted not only by men, but I think it's also granted by women, right? And I would say that male privilege is granted. I would venture to say, I don't know, but I would venture to say that male privilege is granted more by women than it is by men. So I was talking to a group of feminists, right? Self-proclaimed feminists not long ago, and I was asking them, we were talking about the LFL. I don't know if y'all remember that. Lingerie football league.
Football league. Wow.
Right,
Yeah.
right. And they were saying how much they didn't support it, and they were glad that it left. Well, what about the players that wanted to play? Do they have the right to play? They just didn't support it at all. And I think that's really fucked up. Not enough women are supporting women in what they want to do.
So how about this? Do you think women support not making the same amount of money as men make?
Well, I wasn't even talking about money. I was talking about like the sports and what women want to do.
I mean, I'm just saying that's only one field of,
That's one sector of society. Yeah.
Right. I'm not talking about something that they're forced into, because I don't know any woman that would elect to say, hey, look, I want to make less money. I don't know any woman that would say that. I don't know any person that would say that. However, I have seen some people that say I would rather not deal with the headache that comes with the job that's associated with making more money.
I think that if you're a woman that's attached to a man that has a certain level of privilege, it may benefit you to maintain that privilege because you're getting secondhand benefits. So when I heard what Willie say, that's what came to my mind. Like, hell yeah, I'm gonna maintain this male privilege because I'm getting the most benefits. I'm benefiting almost as much as he is, right? And since when you hear that definition that I just laid out of male privilege, regardless of where it came from, do you feel like it still has credibility?
Anything that comes from like a feminist ideology or agenda, it's kind of hard to take with some truth, because it's been proven that black women are more educated than black men. Even in the workforce in corporate America, there's a lot of women making great money, and I feel like when it comes to like the hands-on work, like the HVAC, the technical stuff, like if more women signed up for it, it's not like they turning them down and not do it. So I don't know. I feel like with the whole feminist thing, and like I have conversations with a lot of females who have feminist ideas and stuff like that, but it all comes from a place of like, I don't even think they know where it came from. So it makes it harder to really make sense.
Right.
So I always try to tell females, like, do you know where it came from? Because then we can get a better understanding of why you feel that way. But a lot of times it's just emotional driven, So, but yeah, I don't think there's no real male privilege. Like we have certain things that we can do, like just more equipped to lead and things of that nature. But I think nowadays it's an even playing field, to be honest.
Brother Sense, what do you got to say about that?
Well, that's very interesting. First of all, we need to understand one thing about feminism. The whole feminist movement, the whole mainstream feminist movement was designed by the CIA. If you know that Gloria Steinem, who is known as the mother of feminism.
Modern feminism, right?
Yeah, modern feminism. Thank you for correcting me. She was actually a CIA agent. And I believe that feminism is a tool that is used not only in America, but also here in Africa. I'm starting to see it. it is used to drive a division between the black woman and the black man. I see these feminist nonprofits coming here in Kenya, telling our women all these toxic things about, and I think there's a difference between the oppression that the white woman gets from the white man than the oppression that the black woman gets from the black man. Let me ask you a question, and this applies to all of us as black people. Black men do not own the financial system. Black men don't own the education system. Black men do not own the important sectors of society and of economies. Even here in Africa, we barely even own our governments. They're either owned by China or they're being owned by Europe and or America. So I'm having a hard time when I hear black women saying that black men oppressing them systematically. Now listen, there is misogyny in the house and there is misogyny when it comes to society level. But systematically, I do not think that black men oppress black women systematically. I tell black women all the time, be careful with this feminist stuff, because the deeper you're into it, the more chances of you driving a division with black men.
I want to pinpoint that. Let me ask Britt, do you have these conversations amongst women about feminism or ideas that might be linked to feminism? Do these things resonate with you, or do you pick and choose what you feel is valid and then leave what's not?
You know, what I will say is the interesting thing about what Sensical Sense is saying is that, honestly, I think the whole conversation has to be more specific, because we didn't say, do we feel like black men are the ones treating us that way? We said, do we believe male privilege exists? When we come down to the bottom of it, I'm always pointing my finger at the white man. Unfortunately, that's the truth of it, the history of it. But no, it's not. It's definitely not a thing where we're sitting around, having that conversation. I don't really even think about the sports side of it. All I care about is the fact that I know that men are carrying more home than women are. So for me, that's the part of the equality that is missing, and that's what I will notice. That's what I'm paying attention to.
So you focus on the systemic issues, not necessarily the cultural issues or the separation issues.
Those things are so loaded. You can't even begin to say all of that comes down to just a feminist thing. That comes down to people's different biases, people's different tastes. All of those things are so subjective that it's really, truly hard to even pull that into it. But systematically, absolutely. There's a history to it. There's statistics to it. There are things that make solid sense. Again, like how I can point to that disadvantage that women have with money.
Drilling down into it, we pointed out the discrepancy in pay, but there's also other types of privilege. You have American privilege. As Americans, we feel like we can go anywhere and we top dog anywhere we go. That's the type of privilege that's kind of subconscious.
Yeah, women like to say pretty privilege. I know
pretty privilege. Yes, Britt, come in here and talk about this pretty privilege, because you pretty girls have been getting away with murder. That's a specific type of privilege that we can talk about. What does that mean to you, and how have you used it for evil, Brittney Burna?
Why does it have to be evil?
It's evil.
Handsome men use handsome privilege.
No. We're not talking about that.
Bat my eyelashes and smile. When people have an advantage and they can use it to their advantage, it happens. That's why we have so much, abuse of power in general going on. But, absolutely, it's as simple as using your feminine prowess, using, whatever tools that you may have, whatever swagger might be going on to persuade the opposite sex to do what you are interested in them doing, whether that's fixing something or taking someone out for a meal.
Y'all are so, oh my God, I can't stand it.
That's why I don't do that shit.
I always say there's nothing like a woman who knows who she is. The aura that comes off of her hips, the way, everything. And I had this guy, he told me one day, he said, even if she just played you, but there's nothing like being wooed by a woman that you kind of liked a little bit. It's like, yes, that happens all the time. Sometimes you engage in it, and sometimes you know better. But I always say, you got to blame the enabler. So it's like, yo, she's fucking with you, but you can't even say no. And I always say, hey, if you got it, then go for it, because men do the same thing with their bread, got the boats or whatever, get all the girls. Like, it's a back and forth thing. But I think pretty privilege is a blessing, as long as they don't abuse it in a way, they use on a man who's too weak within himself. And they use that to get him so off course from his whole life, and they use it for all the wrong things, you know. But I think that if you abuse your prettiness, like, I'm not a big fan of like girls who do like the OnlyFans things and blah 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 blah, because like I feel like if you got something that's so beautiful, especially a black woman, that's why it be hurting me to see them twerking all day on the internet. Then that type of thing is just like I can't respect that, but I can respect a woman who could use it to be with a man she likes and use it for that man to be a better version of himself. So I'll leave it at that. But pretty privilege is real, and sometimes I'll let him use it because like it's nothing like it. Yeah.
I like how you talked about the enabler or the person who's enabling the situation, the sucker, the simp, whatever you want to call them. We can't. I think the issue is a lot of dudes are not used to dealing with bad chicks. Right. That's the reality. Now, Willie P, what do you think about the pretty privilege?
Man, look, does it exist? It exists in the weak mind. I think it absolutely exists in the weak mind. And I agree with what Brother Dre said. You do have to blame the enabler, right? Because I think somewhere it says that beauty is in the eye of the beholder. And I think the enabler is really a sucker mentality, just like you said, Mr. No Cap. So I like to take that power away from them. I give no fucking credence to looks, like very little. There may be some, but very fucking little. I want to know what you can do if you don't have those looks. I want to know what you can do beyond those looks. Can you help me build something? Can you help me inspire people? Can you help me grow as a person mentally, physically, spiritually, something like that? If you can't do those things, I don't give a fuck about your looks, not at all. Like you were saying, the examples that y'all have already laid out. These OnlyFans types chicks, those ones that are using that pretty privilege, really what they're doing is they're flooding the market with these pretty privileges, the twerking, the fucking Instagram. And we know that when the market is flooded with something, the fucking value goes down. All right. If every fucking woman is trying to use their pretty privilege, then guess what? It's fucking worthless.
I want to get Sensical Sense. Twerking is OnlyFans, is the Kardashian prototype. Is that a thing in Kenya, on the continent in general?
You know, there's a lot of plastic surgery happening and there's a lot of bleaching.
Yes, bleaching is big. I definitely know that. Bleaching is huge over there.
Oh, bleaching is so huge in Africa, and it's really sad that it's happening. But personally, I look at what's inside. I barely care about how you look like or on the outside. I care about what you think. I care about what is between your two ears. And the only women that I can look at in a sensual way is black women, because I'm only interested in black women and black women only.
I think the highest level or the highest virtue that you can reach as a woman that's very physically attractive is just to be amused to a man that can take that inspiration and turn it into something great. To me, that's the best thing you can do with your pretty privilege. Building upon this privilege topic. So again, there's other types of privileges that exist. You got privileges that exist in court. There's husband and wife privilege. Conversations that are had between a husband and wife are not admissible in court.
It's called spousal privilege.
Spousal privilege, exactly. So black privilege. Sometimes I think we don't have enough conversations about, we talk about how hard it is being black, or how hard it is the struggle of black men, the struggle of black women. So I just want to go around and get everybody's opinion on what is black privilege, if you had to define that. I'll start with Dre.
I mean, I look at it one of two ways. You got one way where it's like now, I mean, after, the Black Lives Matter thing is a whole other topic. But I feel like after that, whether it was right or wrong, there was a Marxist group, whatever the case may be, I feel like that gave us an upper hand when it came to like, they know things are going to go too left, they keep doing us wrong in a certain aspect. That's how I feel a little bit. But in a certain other aspects, when it comes to just, we just dominate a lot of things. But I think that once we get unity all around the board, people really understand like we are not the culture, not the nation to be messed with. But I think that we got to fix things internally. But that's why it's kind of hard. Like we're talking about how hard it is to be black and stuff like that. It's like always going down that rabbit hole, even still. Maybe it's just I'm so subconscious, like used to saying, we got to do better, we got to fix this. But I think that for the most part, we have so much that we own intellectually. People want to take what we have, and that's the biggest privilege that we have. We are who we are, but we just don't know it yet. And that's why they try to take it from us so bad. You know what I'm saying? And demoralize our mindsets.
So you think we like a sleeping giant?
We a sleeping giant, and everybody knows that. You know what I'm saying?
Africa is definitely a sleeping giant.
Exactly. I made a video the other day about, us going to jewelry stores and buying diamonds and things like that, and us not really knowing where they even come from or how to use these big machines and how they taking the resources out of our countries, things like that. But I know for sure, once we all wake up to it and we put more messages out like this, we'll be a problem, because all of the trillions of dollars we spend, we make these companies rich, we could allocate our resources, we can get, the banks and things of that nature. And I understand what you were talking about earlier with not having, financial institutions, education, and hospitals, things of that nature. But I'm gonna go on a whole tangent with that. But it's a lot, man. It's a lot with black privilege. But we do have a lot of privilege, though, for sure.
Willie P, what do you think about that term?
So I would say that we should be careful introducing new terms, especially those that can be used against us in the future. Because you know how every time we say something or every time we try to introduce something, then it gets blown out of proportion. I always like to use strategy. So I would say I agree with what Brother Dre is saying. We do have a lot of power and talents in different areas. I agree that we do need to be able to allocate our money, put our monies into the right place, but I don't think it's going to be the black community as a whole that's going to start that. I agree with what W.E.B. Du Bois said. He said it's going to be the top 10% that's going to go out, get it, and then they're going to bring it back to the rest of the community. I think that's a better strategy for right now, because the people on this line, all of us are intelligent people, and we can sit here and we can have very intellectual conversations, but how many people do we know that can get with us on that same level, regardless if they're black, white, Hispanic, Asian, whatever the case may be? So
You know what's crazy? What popped in my head? So there was a book that came out, Black Privilege, written by Charlemagne the God. He actually.
Oh,
wrote a
hell
book
no. Hell
under that
no. You
name.
should have told me that shit from the beginning, man. Man, look, don't be introducing those suckers into the conversation, man.
Oh.
Look, Charlemagne is a huge fucking sucker, man. In a professional sense, I understand, like, hey, professionally, he's trying to market something, but you got to be able to stand up for yourself.
After what Larry Elder did to him, Charlemagne lost his. He smoked him up there, man. I don't know if y'all saw that.
Remember Joe Biden? Remember Fredro Starr?
Yeah.
All these dudes be coming to his show, putting them in their fucking place.
Wow. Damn, I'm not familiar with all this stuff. I think there's some good and bad with Charlemagne, but I do remember the Joe Biden thing. That was bad. You just let that slide. That's crazy. This is a deeper topic, but they put people out there that they hand select to be able to put certain messages out.
Right,
So
exactly.
It makes sense that they would allow Charlemagne, even though I'm not passing any judgments on him, but they would allow him to put out a book like that.
I mean, I don't know him personally, but it's normally the softer men that get the fucking high publicity for black men.
That's a fact.
Yeah.
You rarely see a highly intelligent, highly masculine black man on TV.
That's why I was upset that Joe Biden even interviewed Cardi B. I don't got no problems with Cardi, but I said out of all the black people to reach out cold to you, interview Cardi B.
Cardi B, exactly. Black people are so underrepresented. They're poorly represented people. Now, I will say that Africa, as a continent, as a whole, they are waking up to that shit. And they're not fucking tolerating it. Fuck this American dollar. Fuck this American way of life. We say no, we don't want your way of life in our country. And if that means you want to keep your money, cool. We'll create another financial system and we don't need your fucking dollars. And they did.
Sensical Sense. What do you think about what's going on in the continent right now, what's going on in your country in terms of rejecting certain American values and also the concept of black privilege? What do you think?
Okay, let me start with the black privilege. Of course, black people are privileged. I mean, we have the most powerful genetics in the world. Black people come from the land that birthed humanity, and we made the greatest civilization known to man. The civilization that taught white people how to wash their behind, how to farm. We taught them everything they know. So we are privileged on the inside. When it comes to the mentality, when it comes to the spirit, we are privileged. But the problem is that we are not using that gift that God has given us. We are not translating it to economics, to actionable items. Now, let me say this about Africa. If you're an African American and you don't consider yourself as an African, you better consider yourself as an African. Russia and China are planning to replace America and Europe and become the new rulers of Africa, which is why you see Putin sweet-talking all these African presidents, telling them all the good things that they want to hear. The African leaders are so gullible, they are so infatuated with dethroning the dollar, which I agree with, but you don't just agree with everything they say, and you don't even ask yourself one thing: why are they telling me this? Why now? And nobody is critically thinking what this means. My idea is that Africa needs to come together and form its own currency. I don't want alliances with the West. I don't want alliances with the East. Now, let me just say one more thing. I want to tell all the African Americans who are listening to me right now, my brothers and sisters, listen to me right now. Form a connection with the motherland. Come here, invest in land, buy houses, invest in businesses here. Because when the BRICS currency kicks off, the dollar will be dethroned. And that will have a huge economical impact on America. And when that happens, as a Pan-African, I believe we all belong into a one family. I would hate to see my fellow African Americans sink with the same white people who colonized them, with the same white people who stripped off their culture, their religion, their humanity. And even now, they're still doing it. So I'm telling you, land is cheap here in Kenya. And it's even cheaper in Uganda. And one thing about Kenya is that Kenya has eased visa restrictions for African Americans. So if you want to come to Kenya, you can come here with so much ease than it was back in the day. Ghana, everybody knows that Ghana is way friendly when it comes to Africans in the diaspora. Kenya has started just the other day, and African countries are following suit. So do your research. Now, for now, I know Kenya and Ghana is the one that you can come without hard visa restrictions.
I definitely want to dig deeper into that at some point. Like, what power moves can we make as Black people over here to really start connecting with, especially with places like Kenya and Ghana and other countries that are like really trying to connect with us and really trying to like bridge that gap. But to go back to this topic real quick, there's also a term out there called mansplaining. Brittney, Burna, is this a term that you've heard?
Yeah.
What the hell is that?
This is a general term, not just Black men that have a tendency to explain things the way men think. Sometimes you'll explain something in this like man way. Maybe you have some terms that you use with your boys that you don't usually use around a woman, and you think how to get it. There's not enough context.
Well,
And I can't think of an example right now, but go around the room. I bet you I
That
come up
sounds
with
like what Willie P be doing.
Yeah.
Willie P's a mansplainer.
Yeah.
hey, look, I don't give a fuck. I can mansplain all fucking day. Why? Because that's how I understand things. I don't need all the fucking details. Hey, we need to go from point A to point B. All right? That's it. That's all I fucking need to know. If I need extra context, and guess what? I'm going to ask for extra information. That's how men talk. Now, when it comes to talking to women, do we need to talk like women to be able to talk to them? No. Why? Because you're talking to a woman. If she needs extra information, all she has to do is ask. It's just that fucking simple.
So it sounds like to me, mansplaining is when a woman says something and you put your masculine take on it. I think a lot of it has to do with like we try to solve the problem and sometimes she just want to talk. I don't know, because that seems to happen a lot. Dre, have you heard of that term called mansplaining?
Yeah, too many goddamn times, yo. And I would try to like find this balance of like logic versus emotion. I mean, there's so many books, Men Are From Venus, Women From Mars, and like there's another book called That's Not What I Meant. Oh man, it's like the yin and the yang, but the headache version. Like, you know what I'm saying? It's like I'm trying to think of an example of what it looks like.
Okay, here's an example of it. All right. So when we watch the football game, all we
That's
care
what-
about the team got from here, first down, if necessary, to the goal. All right. And that they followed the rules when they did that. All right. That's what we care about when we're watching the game. We don't really care about the emotional aspect of it. When we're listening to the announcers, all right, and the sports analysts and stuff like that, we don't give a fuck about how this guy feels versus, what's going on in his relationship. We don't give a fuck. We care about our team winning. That's what we care about. However, there was one analyst that came in that made shit make a whole lot of fucking sense. And all she did, right, she's female, all she did was talk about the emotional aspects of football. That's it. And I respected her for that, because that's how she viewed it. And I never understood how important that was to the game, that a man be in the right type of headspace. When she started doing it, I would never want a man to do that shit. It would not sound right.
So mansplaining and woman, so that sounds like womansplaining.
Exactly. It's the same fucking thing. We
No,
think
it
about
really
a lot
is.
of point A to point B. Women think about everything that's happening between point A and point B.
So Dre, do you think that mansplaining is appropriate in certain situations?
I do believe in this. I do believe in a little bit of compromise, especially with a woman you're trying to work with and, keep a peaceful house with. It's kind of weird. It's like, as y'all was talking, I was looking up examples of mansplaining, and I was like, oh shit, I'm kind of guilty of that. But it's like, if a woman's saying this happened to me and you tell her all the ways it could have been avoided in a way that only you could possibly have avoided that, then it's like,
Right.
that's mansplaining. I can't fight 10 guys to get them to stop buying me drinks at the bar. Like, you know what I'm saying? But you trying to make that make sense. Or she says, this is a dead end. And you're like, there's no fucking sign there, though. I'm telling you it's a dead end. I walked in. Nah, it can't be because there's no sign. That's pretty much what mansplaining is. So I'm like, it definitely happens, but it's also like catching yourself and saying, I don't know. It's a pride thing too, man. It's kind of difficult, but I think it's okay. You know, that's what makes us who we are, because I always believe that if you do something for too long, you'll do it in every aspect. Then you start talking like a woman to men because you're so used to trying to correct yourself. I think the problem with the mansplaining thing is like what we were referring to earlier about the male privileging period. It's like whoever created was just trying to create a dynamic like toxic masculinity almost. You know what I'm saying? This is how men talk. That's how women talk. Just fucking move on. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Because all it is just masculinity. That's it.
Yeah, exactly.
You act like you can pick and choose parts of masculinity and femininity. Like you just only can take the good and leave the bad. Well, no, I'm a whole human being. It seems like there's not spaces and places that allow for men to be full human beings. There should be more spaces and more grace for men to be whole human beings, not be called toxic, not be called names, because you call us names because you can't whoop us. You can't whoop us physically, so you try to whoop us mentally. That seems like what's going on.
Well, just like pretty privilege, we're going to take advantage of the tools that we have. Yeah.
I'm not mad at pretty privilege. I'm not mad at privilege. I am mad at the Kardashians, though, because these thoughts have changed the world forever. So I'm kind of mad at the Kardashians. It's like there's something in their vagina.
In their pussy. It's like they got venom in their fucking pussy or something shit like that. Fuck the man up.
Something inside of these chicks that is like demonic, that is like is possessing these dudes, and then they go out to the world and they're like clones. Who cloned Tyrone? They turned black men into who cloned Tyrone. The Kardashian womb has done that.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Look, even the dude after fucking Kanye, that motherfucker got fucked up.
The comedian dude?
Skeet.
Yeah.
Skeet.
Where is that guy now?
He ended up in rehab. He did end up in rehab after dealing with them. But I'm saying the Kardashians must be stopped. So before we end the show, I did have a question from one of our listeners, and he asked about women having the privilege of choice. He says, women have the privilege of choice. Do you think women have the privilege of choice? Is that a privilege that women have? Meaning, do women ultimately make the choice when it comes down to say, we about to do this? Brittney, Burna, what do you think about that? Are y'all the ones choosing, or are we the ones choosing?
At the end of the day, I always believe we are equals. People are just confused to think differently. Men make decisions, women make decisions. And usually when you have two people together, the one that makes the most sense or has the authority in the relationship is the one calling the shots. And it ends right there.
Who's doing the most choosing? Who's choosing up the most? Is it men or women on average?
Can't come up with an average.
Come on, Brittney Burna. In the pimp culture, there's a saying that says she chose me. Your girl chose me.
That's not the same now.
Yeah, so maybe times have changed. Dre, what do you think about that idea of choice? Who's doing the choosing out here?
So we talking about choosing like who's seeking partners the most?
Right. When it comes down to it, a man and woman are together. They're trying to figure out their next move. Who's really making that decision to decide that this is going to continue?
In terms of marriage, I think it's more of a man's thing, you know, if he wants to go forward with that. But I think early on when it comes to sex, it's more of a woman's thing. Then the dynamic changes.
I kind of agree with that. Before sex is women, then after sex is men.
Yeah, like after the sex
I
and the
think
relationship.
I do agree with that,
Yeah, I don't agree. I think the person that's doing the choosing is the one that has the most options, right? I don't believe that women are the gatekeepers to sex. Why? Because any woman has the opportunity to offer sex. Plus, there's more women in the world than there are men. I think it's like 55% women. So there's always more options for men. And I don't care, what kind of man you are. If your dick don't get hard, then you ain't fucking nothing. All right. If you're not attracted to this person enough to get an erection, then she ain't getting no fucking sex. She can have the best pussy in the fucking world. If your dick don't get hard, then guess what? There's nothing happening there. I think that from a weaker standpoint, this is no insult to anyone here, right? But from a weaker standpoint, a man will defer to a woman because he doesn't have any other options. But black men are really waking up to that shit, and they are exploring their options in other places. So you want to be single and lonely, then cool. Gatekeep that pussy all you want to.
I'm speaking for the most average person who knows nothing about red pill, passport bros. I need that. Who doesn't have too many options. Like, I'm speaking for the most average.
The average man is beholden to pussy. His life centers around pussy. What can I do to get pussy is his driving factor in life. That's the average man in America. Once you find your purpose, you realize your purpose is what you should chase, not pussy. And then the pussy will chase you once you find your purpose.
Exactly. That's where I'm saying that we have the most fucking power. We as men have more power Once you find your purpose and your value, right, you understand that you have options. Then that takes away the fucking power. Pussy ain't shit. You can make money and buy pussy.
Whoa, don't say that. Oh,
No,
But you want to know what's funny?
Hey,
Y'all
I can't
not
agree with
going-
that.
Y'all aren't. Of course, we all have fleshly desires, but y'all aren't going for anything as females on a regular day. So for the most part, you are looking for someone, hopefully, who is equally yoked, someone who has just as much of the deciding factor as you do, because they're also equally calculating and making sure they're taking care of and doing things that are right for them the same way you're doing for you. So that's why I keep telling y'all, it ain't no one or the other.
That's fair. And that's coming from a mentally strong standpoint. Somebody that really gets it. But I understand what Mr. No Cap is saying and what Dre is saying when they're talking about the average person in America. Listen, Brittney, Burna, they ain't thinking on your level.
Not even close.
No, it's true. You're right.
For the record, me and Dre just want to state pussy is amazing. It is one of the greatest creations ever made. I think that when God did that, he, she, him, whatever you want to call him, he was on point that day.
I'm gonna need you and Dre to stay out of fucking sucker swimming pools, right? Y'all starting to get the water in your mouth, right? Y'all that shit.
I'll take that.
Yeah.
Jesus
Hey,
Christ.
the pussy is alright, and when it's necessary. But
Where's Willie
no,
P?
you
Who
can't.
is this person? Where's Willie P at? 'Cause
look, it's kind of like saying the car has more value than you. The car don't mean shit, okay? If ain't nobody driving it.
right, two things can be true. I can know that I'm amazing. I can know that I'm phenomenal. I can know that what I'm giving out is just as valuable as what I'm receiving. And I can also be grateful and thankful for that amazing yoni that was created. And I also recognize the power that I bring to the table too. Two things can be true. But yeah, this has been phenomenal. I want to thank our guests for coming in and giving us a well-rounded conversation. I want to let Dre and Sensical Sense come in here, tell people where to find you and how they can support you. I'll start with Brother Dre.
Yeah. So Think a Mill podcast on Instagram, taking the culture's biggest talking points and giving outside the box insights every day. Don't come with no soft feelings because we is talking that shit over there in the most logical way. And that's the best place to find me right now.
What's your IG?
Think a Mill podcast. So Think a Mill, like think a million, but just Think a Mill.
Awesome. Pleasure having you on, bro. Sensical Sense. Come in here, tell people where to find you. Really appreciate you bringing your perspective. Definitely look forward to building with you even beyond this.
Well, first of all, I would like to tell all your listeners to subscribe to my YouTube channel, Sensical Sense. Just type Sensical Sense and you'll find everything. Sensical, SENSICAL, and then Sense. I do educational and informative episodes, and each episode is topical. And it's very deep and well researched. So that's my legacy right there. But you can find me on my Instagram at Real Sensical Sense, Twitter at Sensical Sense, and TikTok at Sensical Sense. And remember, we can never fight white supremacy when we are fighting from a separate standpoint. We'll only fight it when we are fighting together as a global African family.
One united
what I-
front.
Really appreciate that perspective. Hey, What Black Men Like? Best podcast in the game. We did it again. We out of here, y'all. Deuces.